They sent me a cake, tied in a pretty red ribbon, white frosting, a card that said "We love you." I believed it, until my dog took one bite and never got up again. That's the moment I knew, they didn't send me dessert. They sent me a warning. But what they didn't know was that I had already been watching them for months. I've never had a sweet tooth. Not really. My husband used to tease me for always choosing the salty snacks at parties, skipping the cake at birthdays. So when that box arrived at my doorstep, all polished corners and buttercream roses, I almost didn't open it. But I'm a curious old bird. 75 years old, silver hair bobbed just above my shoulders, and still sharp as a tack. I live alone now, since Harold passed. Just me and my sweet golden retriever Lucky, who's been more loyal than most people I know with blood ties. That day it was raining, soft drizzles tapping on the windows. I heard the knock, slow and deliberate, like whoever left it didn't want to be caught. When I opened the door, there was no one there. Just a pink box and a card that said, in my daughter-in-law's handwriting, "Enjoy, Ruth. From all of us. We love you." From all of us. The phrase curled in my stomach like something sour. My son Matthew used to be the kind of boy who called me every Sunday without fail. But ever since he married Claire, the calls got shorter. Then fewer. Then, nothing. It's been months since I heard his voice that didn't come through an answering machine. And Claire? Claire never did like me. Said I hovered. That I was too traditional. All because I taught my granddaughter to handwrite thank you notes. I brought the box inside. Set it on the kitchen counter. Lucky wagged his tail, curious like always, sniffing at the corner. "Smells sweet," I muttered, pulling the ribbon. The smell was off, faintly bitter under the sugary vanilla scent. I sliced a corner and before I could stop him, Lucky took a bite. It took 5 minutes. One moment he was wagging. The next, he let out a low whimper and collapsed beside the fridge. No barking. No drama. Just stillness. My chest went cold. I dropped the knife. My hand trembled as I knelt down, whispering his name, checking for breath, a pulse. Nothing. That's when the realization hit. They didn't send that cake for me to smile over. They sent it to erase me. I sat there on the floor beside Lucky's still body, the rain outside turning heavier, like the sky itself knew what just happened. A part of me cracked open. Not just grief, but something deeper. Anger. The kind that simmers beneath your bones. The kind that doesn't make you cry, it makes you calculate. You see, they think I'm weak. Old. Alone. They think I don't know how the world works anymore. They think I still use a rotary phone and need help to turn on a laptop. Claire always underestimated me. Said my generation clings to the past. She has no idea that I've been learning every tool, every trick, every legal angle for months. Because I knew something wasn't right long before the cake. It started the last time I visited their home. A few months back. Claire barely looked me in the eye. Matthew paced nervously, like he was hiding something. My granddaughter Emily whispered that Daddy said you weren't feeling well and needed help with your money. I never said that. I never said that. That night, I went home and checked my bank account. They'd moved money. Thousands. From one of my smaller accounts, the one Matthew used to help manage, just in case. I didn't confront them then. No. I'm too old for screaming matches and slammed doors. I believe in evidence. I believe in paper trails. I believe in letting people dig their own holes, then handing them the shovel with a smile. So I hired a lawyer. Quietly. A woman named Lila who used to be one of my students back when I taught high school English. She went into elder law after her own grandmother got swindled. Fierce girl. Smart. Loyal. I told Lila everything. She started pulling records, tracing withdrawals, logging phone calls, collecting surveillance. She even got me a private investigator, a quiet man named Brent who said very little but noticed everything. They started building a case. Fraud. Forgery. Emotional manipulation. And now, attempted murder. Lucky's death was the final straw. I called Lila that night. Told her to meet me the next morning with gloves and testing supplies. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Yes, ma'am." We drove the cake straight to a private lab. Paid in cash. No questions asked. 2 days later, the the results came in. Ricin. Not a lot. Just enough to be fatal if someone had a weak system. Subtle. Tragic. Hard to trace. And if I had died? They'd have said it was my age. My heart finally gave out. There'd be tears. Speeches. Claire would have worn black and pretended to be devastated. And within weeks, she would have had power of attorney. They'd have sold the house. Pocketed everything. Clean. Except they forgot one thing. I taught high school for 40 years. I've read more manipulative characters in books than they've ever met in real life. And I know when someone's rehearsing a lie. Claire's been rehearsing for years. I spent the rest of that week going through every detail, every bank statement, every voicemail, every strange little inconsistency in the way my son talked to me lately. And I started preparing. No, I didn't call the police. Not yet. Because the law is only powerful when you hand it everything wrapped in a bow. And I wanted this gift to be so tight, so airtight, that there would be no wiggle room. No misunderstanding. No way to wriggle out with some crocodile tears and a lawyer in a tight blazer. No. I was going to give them exactly what they gave me. A slow, sweet slice of consequences. They say revenge is best served cold. But I'm not interested in revenge that just burns. I want it to last. To sting. To leave a mark they'll feel every time they look at a slice of cake for the rest of their lives. And so I waited. Smiling. Answering their messages. Claire even called to ask, "Did you like the cake, Ruth?" Her voice syrupy. I said, "Oh yes, darling." It was unforgettable. And it was. Because it marked the beginning of the end for her. I keep the cake box. I know that sounds strange, morbid even, but I store it carefully in a sealed plastic bag in my freezer, labeled Evidence, Do Not Touch. It sits beside a bag of frozen peas and an old tub of butter pecan ice cream. Every time I reach in for something, I see it. And I remember. Lucky's collar hangs by the door. I couldn't bear to throw it out. Some nights, I still hear the quiet thump of his tail against the floor, ghost sounds, muscle memory of love that doesn't know how to leave. But grief has a job to do, and mine turned into purpose. Lila and I meet twice a week now. Quietly, at a little cafe just outside of town. I sit with a knit shawl around my shoulders and a cup of peppermint tea, looking like any other old woman watching the rain. But inside, I'm a storm. Calm on the surface, lightning in the marrow. This is more than financial exploitation, Lila says, sliding a folder across the table. It's criminal conspiracy. And if we play this right, it'll be federal. I open the folder. Inside, photos of Claire at the bank with forged documents. Matthew's signature, or what's supposed to be mine, clumsily traced from a birthday card. Even a blurry snapshot of Claire handing a small envelope to someone who, according to Brent, used to work in a pharmacy, lost his license last year for stealing pain meds. Do we have enough? I ask. Lila leans in. Almost. We need them to say something. Something damning. Something undeniable. And I think I know how we can make that happen. She tells me the plan. It's clever. And it will require acting, something I haven't done since the school play in 1969. But I can do it. I can be fragile. I can be trusting. I can play the part they already believe I am. The setup begins the next day. I call Claire. It's the first time I've dialed her directly in months. "Oh Ruth," she answers, all sugar and spin. "I was just thinking about you. Did you finish the cake?" I force a smile into my voice. "Yes, dear. It was quite something. Listen, I've been meaning to ask you and Matthew over for lunch. There's something important I need to discuss. Legal stuff. End-of-life documents and such." A pause. Then, "Of course. That's very responsible of you. Matthew's schedule is tight, but I'll make it work." I bet she will. They come 3 days later. Claire wears a crisp white blouse and fake concern. Matthew looks tired. Guilty. He doesn't meet my eyes. It guts me, seeing the boy I raised now sitting at my kitchen table like a stranger waiting for a payout. I serve them tea. From fresh boxes. All monitored, sealed and recorded, courtesy of Lila and her tech-savvy team. "I've been thinking a lot lately," I begin, hands trembling just enough to look convincing. About legacy. About who deserves what. Claire's face flickers, hunger beneath politeness. Well, that's very wise of you. Estate planning is complicated at your age. I nod. I want to simplify things. Make sure you two aren't burdened later. So I've been going through my accounts, my will, and I realized I've been foolish. Too independent. Too distrusting. I think it's time I hand things over. Matthew blinks. What do you mean? I place a folder on the table. Inside, fake documents, fake account summaries, all part of Lila's setup. This is a draft of the new power of attorney. Once it's signed and filed, everything, the house, the remaining accounts, the pension, will be under your names. Claire can't hide her reaction. Her hand grips Matthew's under the table. Her eyes gleam. You're sure? She asks, voice thin with restrained excitement. Oh yes, I nod, swallowing a fake tear. I'm tired. And after Lucky passed, I realized. I don't want to die alone. I want to know my family's looking after me. Matthew says nothing. He just stares at the folder like it's Pandora's box and he's too scared to open it. They leave with a copy. And the next day, Claire makes her fatal mistake. Lila calls me, barely able to contain herself. She called the banker. Told him to prepare for a large asset transfer. Said you were losing your grip, and she was taking over early to avoid trouble. And Ruth, we got it. All of it. Audio. Video. Signed statements. Everything. It's almost too easy. But still we wait. The last piece, the final nail in the coffin, comes a week later when Claire visits me alone. No Matthew this time. Just her, standing in my garden with a plastic container in her hands. I made banana bread, she says, smile tight. Thought you could use some comfort. I don't touch it. But I pretend to. I smile and say, you've been so kind lately. It means the world. And then I say the words that seal her fate. I already had a slice this morning. Best thing I've eaten in years. Her smile falters. Just for a second. Her eyes flicker. She wasn't expecting that. Because she knows what she put in it. And that's the moment the wire catches it all. Her silence. Her shift. Her subtle panic masked as concern. And now? Now it's time to serve my own slice of justice. We file everything the next morning. The charges are staggering. Attempted murder. Financial exploitation of the elderly. Fraud. Forgery. Conspiracy. Lila hands over every document, every file, every recording. Brent turns in his surveillance log. The lab submits the toxicology report. The audio of Claire's banker call gets submitted through formal affidavit. They arrest her the following week. She's still in her robe when they show up. Brent records it from across the street. She screams. Cries. Says she's being framed. Matthew tries to intervene. But the officers show him the warrant. The tape. The lab report. His face goes white. He doesn't come to see me after that. Not even once. But I don't cry this time. Because I've learned something. Grief is painful, yes. But there's a grief sharper than death. It's betrayal. And I survived both. I attend the arraignment. Sit in the back. Quiet. Unmoving. Claire spots me. She stares. But she doesn't speak. Because she knows. She tried to kill me with cake. I returned the favor with silence, law, and strategy. And now, she'll spend years with bars instead of frosting. The newspaper didn't use her full name. They just wrote, local woman charged in poison plot involving elderly family member. But everyone in town knew exactly who they meant. Small towns have ears, and worse, they have memories, ones that stretch back generations and cling to gossip like lint on wool. Claire always prided herself on image. Fancy haircuts. Manicured nails. The kind of smile that looked bright in photos but hollow in person. Now? Her mugshot sits in my desk drawer. A reminder. Her mascara smeared, her mouth open like she just realized the consequences were real. Matthew didn't call. Not when the story hit the local news. Not when Claire's bail was denied. Not even when the family lawyer quit the case out of sheer disgust. Nothing. He used to sit on my lap and ask me to read where the wild things are. Now he's gone quiet like a ghost, haunting the edges of this mess he helped create. I should be more broken about that. But there's a strange thing that happens when someone tries to erase you. You stop mourning their silence and start appreciating your own voice again. I take long walks now. Just me. No leash in hand anymore, but I still stop at Lucky's favorite fire hydrant like a reflex. It hurts. But it's clean pain, not confusion, not betrayal. Just love, unfinished. Lila visits often. She brings updates and lemon tarts. Dia says they're stacking charges, she tells me one afternoon, her mouth full. 2 counts of attempted murder, for you and for Lucky. Even the judge got emotional over the dog. I smile at that. He was more loyal than half my family. Jury's going to hate her, Lila continues. And your prep work? Flawless. You gave us a case so tight it's practically laminated. I nod. You taught me well. But beneath our tea and pastries, I feel the cold stillness of something unfinished. Matthew. The son I gave everything to. The boy I nursed through fevers, stayed up with through science fairs and heartbreaks. The man who sat there while his wife poisoned his own mother. Why? Why didn't he stop her? Why didn't he warn me? I get my answer 2 weeks before the trial. A knock at the door. Mid-afternoon. Sunlight pouring through the lace curtains. I expect it to be Lila or maybe the neighbor's kid returning my mail by mistake. But it's him. Matthew. He looks older. Not just in the way people age, but worn down. Gray hairs he didn't have a year ago. Shirt wrinkled. Eyes dull. Hi Mom, he says softly, like he's trying not to scare me. I stare at him for a moment. Then step aside. He walks in like he doesn't recognize the place. Like guilt warped the memory of it. I make tea. The silence between us is heavy. When I place the cup in front of him, his hands tremble. He doesn't touch it. I didn't know, he says at last. I swear to you, Mom. I didn't know what Claire was planning. Didn't know. My voice cracks, part laugh, part disbelief. She was draining my accounts, forging my signature, and delivering baked goods laced with poison. And you were what, reading a newspaper? He drops his head. I saw things. I ignored them. I thought, she was just being controlling. Protective, maybe. She said you were getting forgetful. That you were giving your money away to scammers. My jaw tightens. And you believed her. I wanted to believe her, he admits, finally looking me in the eye. Because admitting she was hurting you? It would have meant admitting I failed as your son. That I let someone close who didn't deserve you. A long pause stretches between us. I wanted to believe you were safe, he whispers. I take a breath. Not to forgive, but to stay steady. I was safe, I tell him, because I stopped trusting you both long before she baked that cake. He flinches. I hired a lawyer. Hired a PI. Collected everything. You know why? Because my gut knew. Even when my heart didn't want to admit it. Matthew nods, ashamed. I'm not here to beg, he says. I'm here because I want to testify. Against her. My stomach tightens. You'll admit you knew? I'll admit I looked away. I'll admit I signed forms without checking them. That I saw her isolate you, and I let it happen. I look at him hard. Why now? He blinks, and for the first time in years, I see the boy again. Because Emily asked where you were. She said you used to come read to her. And I had no answer. She said, did Grandma do something wrong? He swallows hard. And I couldn't lie to my daughter the way I lied to myself. The trial begins 2 weeks later. Claire pleads not guilty. The courtroom is too cold. Fluorescent lights buzzing. Reporters lining the hallway like vultures with microphones. But inside, it's just rows of pews, a jury of faces, and the truth being peeled layer by layer. Lila is masterful. Calm. Precise. She lays out everything, the forged documents, the toxicology report, the financial transfers. She plays the audio. The banker's testimony hits like thunder. Brent presents surveillance footage. The jury leans in. Then it's Matthew's turn. He walks up slow. Wrings his hands. Takes the stand. And he tells the truth. Every word. He weeps when he says my name. Says he's ashamed. Says he wanted to believe Claire but ignored his instincts. That he betrayed me not with violence, but with silence. Claire stares at him like she's been slapped. When he steps down, he doesn't look at her. Just me. And I nod. Once. Not forgiveness. But recognition. Claire is convicted on all charges. Sentenced to 18 years. The courtroom buzzes with reporters. Cameras click. A woman from Channel 5 tries to corner me outside for a quote. Is there anything you'd like to say to your family? She asks. I look right at her camera. Yes, I say. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. And loyalty doesn't require permission. Choose wisely. Then I walk away. That night, I sit alone on my porch. Tea in hand. Lucky's collar on the table beside me. And I breathe. The stars are bright. Brighter than they've been in months. Justice is cold. But peace? Peace is warm. And finally, I can feel it again. People think that once the gavel drops, the story ends. But that's never how it works. Not with family. Justice may have been served in that courtroom, but out here, in the day-to-day, in the long quiet hours when you're folding laundry or watching the kettle boil, that's when the real reckoning begins. After Claire was sentenced, I didn't throw a party. I didn't pop champagne or light a single candle. I just cleaned my house. The way I used to after a long school year. Pulling down curtains, wiping down cabinets, scrubbing the parts no one sees, corners, baseboards, behind the fridge. I needed to make space. Not just for peace, but for life. Because after everything she took, my safety, my trust, my Lucky, I still had one thing she couldn't touch, my will. Not my legal will. The real kind. The kind that kept me alive when others wanted me gone. The kind that made me stand up in court with my back straight and my voice steady, while the woman who tried to kill me looked like a damp paper towel with lipstick. But here's the twist no one expects. Survival comes with aftermath. And my aftermath had a name. Emily. My granddaughter. 8 years old, all freckled cheeks and wide eyes, with hair the color of cinnamon and questions I wasn't sure how to answer. The day after the verdict, she showed up at my door holding a stuffed bear and a letter. Matthew stood behind her, silent. Grandma, she said. Mommy said you were sick, but Daddy said she lied. Are you really okay? I bent to her level and smiled. I'm much better now that you're here. She gave me the letter. It was written in purple marker on lined notebook paper. Dear Grandma, I'm sorry Mommy hurt you. I love you. I want you to be my friend again. Can I come over sometimes? Maybe we can bake muffins that are not poison. Love, Emily. I laughed so hard I cried. Then I hugged her. Yes, sweetheart, I whispered. We can bake muffins. I'd love that. And just like that, the war left behind a seed. Something new. Something soft. Emily began visiting once a week. At first, it was short visits, an hour or two. Her teacher sent over some workbooks, and I helped her with reading. She liked sitting on the porch swing while I told stories about when her father was a little boy. Did he really think frogs lived in his backpack? She giggled. Until the day one jumped out in the middle of math class, I said with a wink. He screamed so loud the janitor came running. She laughed until she hiccuped. Matthew picked her up after each visit. Sometimes he came in. Sometimes he just waited in the car. We didn't say much, but there was a quiet understanding between us, like two people sweeping up broken glass from opposite ends of the room. He was trying. I could see that. But forgiveness isn't a single act. It's a decision you make over and over again, especially when your heart is still bruised from the last time it dared to open. 3 months passed. Claire tried to appeal. The court laughed her out. Matthew filed for divorce. Full custody. I didn't interfere. But I did make some changes. One morning, I walked into my lawyer's office, not Lila this time, but her colleague in estate law. I want to rewrite my will, I said. She looked surprised. Understandable, given recent events. I smiled faintly. Yes, but I want to make something clear. I don't want my family to inherit out of pity. Or guilt. Or obligation. I want them to earn it. She nodded slowly. You want contingencies. Exactly. We drafted a new version of the will that very day. I included everything: my home, my savings, my pension, even the little antique collection in the attic that's worth more than most people think. But here's the catch: the beneficiaries must meet specific terms. Emily? She gets a trust when she turns 18, if she maintains good grades, avoids criminal activity, and logs 50 hours of volunteer work. Matthew? He gets his share only if he never remarries Claire or allows her access to the child or the assets. One violation, and the entire thing is revoked. It's not punishment. It's protection. For me. For Emily. For the future I nearly lost. And I made sure to include a final clause, a donation in Lucky's name to an animal rescue organization. Enough to fund emergency care for dogs poisoned or abused. A way to honor the friend who saved me with a single bite. But even with all that settled, there was still one thing I needed to do. One confrontation I hadn't made yet. Not in court. Not with lawyers. With her. Claire. It takes 6 months to get approved. Lila arranges it. We drive to the correctional facility on a gray Tuesday morning. The air smells like rain and cigarette smoke. The waiting room is cold, silent except for a buzzing vending machine. When they bring Claire in, she looks like a shadow of herself. Orange jumpsuit. Hair pulled back into a greasy ponytail. Skin pale. Eyes puffy. She sits across from me, chained at the wrists. We stare at each other for a long while. Then she speaks. So what, you came to gloat? I fold my hands on the table. No. I came to look you in the eye. She scoffs. You won. I'm in here. Your mutt's dead. Your son hates me. Congratulations. I don't flinch. You poisoned an old woman because you wanted a house and a bank account. She smirks. Because you wouldn't share. You acted like everything had to go through you. You hovered. You clung. I nod slowly. Maybe I did. But here's the difference. I loved that house. I earned what I had. I taught for 40 years, raised a child, paid off every debt. And you thought you could just steal it. Her smile fades. I lean in, calm as ever. You thought you were clever. But you underestimated me. And that's the worst mistake anyone can make with a woman my age, assuming silence means weakness. Claire shifts uncomfortably. You lost, I say, standing. And just before I walk out, I turn back. And now? Every bite of prison food will remind you of the cake you baked. And every Sunday visit you don't get from your daughter? That's your legacy. Outside, the sun breaks through the clouds. Lila drives me home in silence. At my front steps, she pauses. You good? She asks. I nod. I am. Want to press further? Civil suit? Financial restitution? I shake my head. No. Let the silence follow her like a shadow. That's enough. That night, I sit by the fireplace, Emily curled next to me, sketching something in her notebook. What are you drawing, sweetheart? I ask. She flips it around. It's a picture of us baking. Me holding a tray of muffins. Her wearing an apron with a dog paw print on it. And this. I point to the paw. That's for Lucky, she says softly. He's the hero. Tears sting my eyes. Yes, I whisper. Yes, he was. A year has passed. One full rotation of seasons since the day I found that cake on my doorstep and held my dog's lifeless body in my arms. 1 year since I learned just how far my own family was willing to go, for greed, for control, for something I built with love and sacrifice. I've watched the garden bloom again, tulips rising in the same corner Lucky used to nap. I planted his favorite, sunflowers, along the back fence, and they've grown taller than I expected, like even the earth remembers him. But more than that, I've changed. Not outwardly, I still wear my soft cardigans and orthopedic shoes, still drink peppermint tea and knit when my fingers ache. But inside? There's steel now. Quiet. Firm. Unshakable. I no longer doubt my instincts. I no longer shrink myself for others' comfort. And I've learned that peace isn't found in silence, it's in boundaries. Matthew comes by once a week now. Not out of obligation, not anymore. We sit on the porch, him with a thermos of coffee, me with my tea, watching Emily draw chalk shapes on the walkway. It's not the kind of relationship I dreamed we'd have. But it's honest now. Wounds exposed, healing slowly. One Sunday, he brings over a box. Quietly places it on the table between us. I cleaned out the attic, he says. Claire's stuff. Thought you should have this. Inside, I find old photos, Emily's first drawing of our house, yellow crayon squiggles and a crooked smiley face labeled Grandma. Claire's engagement ring. A crumpled recipe card that says vanilla butter cake, family favorite. I hold it between my fingers, and for a second, I feel a flicker of the old bitterness. But I don't let it settle. Instead, I pick up the ring and drop it into a small tin marked donation. Matthew watches in silence. She doesn't haunt me, I say. Not anymore. But I won't keep pieces of her here. He nods. Emily has nightmares, he admits softly. She dreams about cake. About someone telling her to eat it, and then, you disappear. I swallow hard. She's young, I say. But not too young to understand that love and harm sometimes wear the same face. What matters is that now she's safe. And she's learning what real love looks like. Emily starts sleeping over on Saturdays. We bake muffins. Blueberry is her favorite. She insists we taste the batter every time, just to be safe. It breaks my heart and makes me proud at the same time. I teach her how to plant seeds, how to sew on a button, how to use a rotary phone, just for fun. One evening she asks, Grandma, what happened to Mommy? I sit her down. I don't sugarcoat it, but I don't make it cruel. She did something very bad. Something that could have hurt me. And hurt people who loved me. She made choices that were selfish and wrong. And now, she has to live with the consequences. Emily thinks for a moment. Then says, will I have to live with them too? I lean down and take her face in my hands. No, sweetheart. Her choices are not yours. You get to choose kindness. Honesty. You get to build your own story. She nods. And I feel a small weight lift. Because that's what revenge can never truly give you, healing. That comes after. That comes slowly. But it does come. I've joined a local advocacy group, Women for Elder Protection. I sit on a panel with lawyers, social workers, and survivors. I tell my story to rooms full of strangers, and their gasps, their tears, their nods, they remind me that what happened to me happens to too many. And not all of them make it through. Some women don't have a lucky. Some women don't get the chance to see justice served. So I speak for them now. Lila helps me organize. We even filed for non-profit status. We call it Lucky's Law. A push for stronger protections for seniors, better financial tracking, easier reporting tools, harsher penalties for abuse disguised as caregiving. We're not just cleaning up the aftermath. We're preparing the battlefield. As for Claire, she writes letters. I never open them. The first one came 3 months into her sentence. The return address stamped on the envelope like a wound. Her handwriting tried to look soft, but I know her strokes too well. Still that tight, condescending curve to her R's. I kept the first envelope. Unopened. It's in a drawer with the original cake card. A memory I don't need to reread. I don't want apologies carved from convenience. She had her chances. What I want is what I already have. Quiet mornings, warm bread, real laughter, and a granddaughter who knows how to protect her own light. That's enough. This morning, I stood at Lucky's little memorial, a stone marker beneath the biggest sunflower, engraved with his name. I laid down a slice of fresh banana muffin. Still the hero, I whispered. Still saving me. The wind rustled the petals. And for a moment, I swear I felt his tail brush against my calf. I smiled. Not everything survives. But the right things do. So when people ask me now, aren't you bitter? Angry? Don't you wish things had gone differently? I say this. No. Because I lived. I fought back. I exposed a lie. I chose love over silence. And boundaries over blind forgiveness. I honored the one who saved me. And I turned a poisoned cake into a platform that saves others. That's not just survival. That's legacy.